Nice.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Chris Woolley, and I'm your host for Let's Develop. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is a fun webinar series brought to you by American Color Imaging, and we bring in really cool people that are just super passionate about their craft, and they just share information. And we've got Julie Savage today on Make Your Art Personal, which is going to be a whole bunch of fun. Now, if this is your first time, let me give you the quick rundown. Every 2 weeks, we bring in somebody that's really cool. So you can check out the lineup and register, all that fun stuff at ACI's website, acilab.com/let's-develop. Again, a huge shout out to American Color Imaging. Now, if you happen to miss the last episode that we did, we had Megan on talking about photographing the Northern Lights, and it's that time of year. So lots of really cool stuff going on that front. Now, if you do have any questions during this is interactive, one of the joys of a live webinar. So you'll notice on your screen, there's a chat box. Put your questions in chat. I know Julie loves answering questions, and we're going to be answering those ones live. So make sure that we are fully utilizing that. And be sure to stay to the very end of the show. We've got a cool special from American Color Imaging, as well as some prizes to give away. All right. Now, with all that, let's jump into the fun stuff. We've got Julie Savage here. So you can see her picture and some of her artwork up on the screen right now. She is a quirky fine art photographer from Alabama. She started her photography business in 2013 in the Republic of the Marshall Islands. And then 2018, she moved to the U.S. and started creating digital art that tells stories from her personal life and a feminist perspective. She's got all sorts of degrees and accolades. She's a certified professional photographer, a counselor. She's a judge. She's a juror, master artist, master photographer, photographic crafts. It just goes on, and she's just a super cool person. I've gotten to know her over the years, and she's just a ton of fun. So welcome, Julie, and thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I think that I'm not the only quirky one here. I just have to start out that way.
Quirky's way more fun. Got to have the quirky.
Absolutely.
So what are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to talk about, how, art inspiration, how to get inspired, and oftentimes how to use your personal life and personal stories for your inspiration for art, and not to be afraid of using some of those personal stories.
So adding in your own little special sauce into the mix, huh?
Absolutely. Definitely special. And we're going to talk about us and basically the roots and the guts that go into creating, personal storytelling.
Well, cool. I'm excited to jump in. Are we ready to get started?
Yeah.
All right.
Are you ready?
I got your slide deck up. Let's do this.
All right. So I start out with aloha, y'all, because my journey started in the islands. And, I was out in the Republic of the Marshall Islands, and I was a mom with a camera. So in 2011, I had my son, Wiley Kai. So we almost went coyote, but we held ourselves back. So Wiley Kai Savage, and I was a mom with a camera, and I'm super proud of being a mom with a camera. And I bought a Canon 60D. So I just wanted a nice camera that I could get beautiful images of my baby with. And I didn't even break that camera out for about 6 months because I was just busy with a newborn. But, followed my kid around everywhere with that camera. Next thing you know, because I was mamarazzi, some other moms with their kids were like, you take nice pictures, or you have a nice camera. And would you take pictures of me or my family? And I would. And so in around 2013, I actually did start taking clients. I did it in a very kind of that traditional mom with a camera way. So I would charge $50 or $100 and give them all the digitals. And I was just thrilled that anybody liked my photography enough that they would even ask me to do it. So I could not believe my good fortune that I got to go out and take people's pictures for even $50. So but in 2015, and I should also say that I learned photography in a very organic, sort of unmolested way. And that is that I didn't have internet. So I was way outside of the digital era. And I ordered some books and I took a risk. I ordered some lights from Profoto because I had read somewhere that they were the best. And I don't know. So I got some Profoto lights and flat lit my child for a few years and a couple of other people's children. And the next thing you know, I would practice with one light. And I was like, I like that. That looks really dramatic. And this was all just very, very unmolested. Like I said, I really just sort of did what I liked. I did what I wanted. I didn't have the input from YouTube or even PPA or anything to really tell me what I should be doing. I just sort of did what I thought looked good. In 2015, we got the internet. That was big. They laid I know we were so out of touch. So whenever we visit the island, we'd come to Hawaii. And we were just so clueless. We'd be like, so is Uptown Funk still a good song? I mean, we didn't know. But in 2015, we got the internet, and that was a pretty big deal. And I started obviously looking up photography stuff, found PPA, and I was like, I want that. I want to get that certified professional photographer thing. And that really ended up changing my journey. And it has to be part of this story because this required me, there was no online testing at the time. And so it required me to buy a $3,000 plane ticket to Honolulu. It's an 8-hour flight. It was time away from my very young child. And so I studied really hard because there was no flipping way I was going to fail that test after spending all this money, having this time away. Why? I contacted Dwight Okamoto. And this began a journey and a friendship. And not just with Dwight, but with the entire Professional Photographers of Hawaii team. And it meant a lot to me because I was very isolated, all by myself. I didn't have anyone else to learn from. And this was the beginning of me having a network of photographers. And so I flew to Honolulu, took the CPP, and submitted whatever I had on my laptop, for my images, because at the time it was pre-Sherman days. And, I got my CPP. And Dwight said, you should start creating some images for image competition next. That's the next thing. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so he sort of filled me in. He said, you're just going to need some mats and strokes and things to put on your images. And I was like, huh? And so Dwight really ushered me in to creating images beyond something that were just portraits or pictures of my child or pictures of other people's children and families. This really ushered me into becoming a creative, a real artist. And so that was 2015. And so Dwight ushered me along quickly, you see. And so I ended up in my first IPC in 2016. I went platinum. And so that was good.
Wow.
And so the other piece of this information, and you guys may know just because I've taught some workshops with Tom Rouse, that I have a great friendship with Tom, and we first met in 2016. And the reason we met, and the reason this is also an important part of the story, is because I had ordered critiques for my images. Tom critiqued my little hermit crab up on the top left. And the reason that's important is because I always thank anyone who gives me a critique. Always. I still do it today. So if I order a critique and someone takes the time and thought to really look at my image and help give me feedback, that's growth. And that's important growth. It's kind of like when you read books and you put yourself in someone else's shoes and you learn what it's like to have someone else's perspective, even though you're looking at the same image, right? This is important stuff to hear somebody else's perspective on your image. And so I always say thank you. So I sent an email to all the folks that gave me critiques. Tom was one of those. And he said, what is that creature? So it's a hermit crab. I live in the Marshall Islands. And he said, what? Next thing you know, it sparked, we got to talking about the Marshall Islands. We chatted, and he said, well, next time you come to imaging, let me know and let's have coffee. I'd love to hear more about that. He ends up being one of my best friends in the world. So, and others too. So on the right, there's Sand Angel. And Allison English Watkins has become one of my besties at PPA, and that he critiqued Sand Angel, and so I had started a chat with her, and next thing you know, we met at Imaging, and so I guess the bottom line is saying thank you to an artist that gave me feedback mattered, and it set me up with these friends that have helped me along in my creative journey. So Dwight Okamoto obviously has helped me a lot on my journey. He sponsored me for my photographic craftsman and master photographer degree. And then Tom sponsored me for my master artist degree. So these are people that greatly helped me along in my creative journey. So in 2016, I had a lucrative client business. I finally really changed that business model, and where I was doing in-person sales. I had the prep meetings and the sales meetings, and it became very personal, where I was designing their sessions. I was bringing along assistants, I had like 3 assistants, one that would help with lighting, one that would help with, posing and making hair, and then another one that would do behind the scenes videos. And I would create these behind the scenes videos with their images and stuff. And that was one of the things that I would sell, at the end, and my goal for every one of those was to always make the dad cry. That was my goal. So, and that works. That sells your mantelpieces, right? So I did everything. I did seniors. I did individuals that just wanted to be captured on Kwajalein because it was such a unique place. I did maternity. I did people's pets. I did engagements, and I even shot a wedding as an assistant, which I'm not a wedding photographer, but I did a little bit of everything. And I had the capability of really creating this into a lucrative business model because it was me and one other photographer. And we worked together to make sure that nobody was picking us because we were the cheapest. So I really had this luxury of creating a very lucrative business out there. And then I went to Texas school in 2017. And that is really when my artistic journey began, because I ended up taking Tom Rouse, and he's as weird as they get. And that, we started realizing too that, and he recognized in me that I had this very quirky creative sense, and encouraged it. And one thing that I should probably tell you guys is I tend to be pretty actually shy about my art. You'll probably never see me. Like, I don't apply for speaker roles. I am not putting myself out there as a speaker. The only reason I ever taught a workshop was because Tom invited me because he thought I had a quirky brain and I had to share it. And so it took that encouragement really for me to share. And then Chris Woolley invited me to speak for this. I never volunteer myself for speaking roles. And it's mainly because I feel actually very humble and shy about what I create. I still feel a little bit, I have that imposter syndrome. And, there might be some of you that can relate to that. If you can relate to that, it would be fun to actually hear about people's feelings in the chats, or if you have questions about how to overcome that. Well, really, I can't even answer it because I still have that.
Who here has imposter syndrome? I know I certainly do. I think that's pretty common for us creative types. If you do have imposter syndrome, put it into chat. Oh, yep. Kimberly says, yep. Suzanne, yep. Rachel, yep. Connie, yep. Lots of yeps for sure. Guilty here. I don't think you're alone on that one, Julie.
Well, and I think it's important to talk about and to recognize that most of us actually feel that way. And one thing I learned in Tom Rouse's class, and from, doing these workshops with him and things, is he forced me to declare myself an artist. And I'll talk about that again a little bit later. It's an important step in being an artist, is actually saying it out loud. I will say I do say it out loud a lot now. I'm an engineer. I'm a physicist by day. And so I hang out with a lot of linear thinkers. We're physicists in math. Everything has an answer. And art is very different. And I really had to work to develop my divergent thinking skills. that an image can have so many outcomes. You can go so many different ways. Some of the things I created here, the little fox on the left, that is a pieced together fox. That was about like 3 different images of a fox. I was dangling off my balcony in Colorado while we were skiing, and dangled off my balcony to grab a picture of this fox. So even though it's not necessarily a storytelling art piece, this 2017, these are the things that I was creating. I was sitting at a bar on Kwajalein. There was only one bar, just, not a bar, the bar. I was sitting at the bar on Kwajalein. And I was really frustrated with my marriage at the time. And I was sitting at the bar. My husband was off ignoring me doing something. And I looked around and thought, what a bunch of clowns. and, and that's where the bar clown came from. I was sitting at the bar and I thought, what a bunch of clowns. What am I doing here? And I looked around the bar, and everybody just looked so depleted and as, sad as I felt. So that's where the bar clown came from, and that's my story. What else somebody might interpret from this? It doesn't really even matter what my story is. Somebody will feel that, maybe. The top right scary clown coming out of the closet, that is a childhood nightmare for me. I still have it. And it's all because my parents showed me flippin' Poltergeist when I was like 6 years old. And that jester sitting in the chair that ended up under the bed, and the whole monster coming out of the closet. I sort of combined that, the jester and the monster coming out of the closet. You've got the hands coming out the door. Those are all sort of poltergeist nightmares that I still have. And that was one of my best friends on quad. That was her kid screaming. The clown theme stemmed all from the bar clown. And so all of the clowns that I had, those were people that I played in a rock band for 12 years. I sang, played guitar, and played harmonica. And it was great. It was always so hot there. So I was always like covered in sweat, like totally sweaty. We were total wild asses. It was wonderful. And we traveled a little bit around the islands and performed. Well, the clowns that modeled for me for this session, they were all from my rock band. So all the clowns were in the band. In the bottom, the tally. A lot of people have asked what was the inspiration for the tally. And I had, while I was living on Kwajalein, I had some feelings of being trapped, and just some things that weren't going well for me and weren't going right in my life. And I was sort of counting down the days to the next good thing, right? And so I was having this feeling, or I was just counting down, and that's where the tally came from. So I had a model, and she's holding a Marshallese love stick in her hand, just for the record. And actually, she wasn't holding it. I put it in there later, but she's counting down the days, and so a lot of people interpret that one very, very differently. And that's great. That's art, right? So, and then obviously on Kwajalein, I had lots of opportunities for mermaids and water and ocean scenes. But so that's my husband in the top right. He's the guitarist in our band, so he was definitely one of the clowns. So one of the grumpy clowns, and then he was I don't do balloons, and the bottom right was it's not funny, and then the 3 clowns was you can't make me. And so the bar clown thing ended up sort of inspiring a slew of ridiculousness, and then some additional ones. So top left, that's the same model from the tally, and that was drowning. And I'll talk a little bit about the techniques I used in that one towards the end. Are there some questions?
No, everybody just listening so far.
Okay. And then Self-Made Widow, that's a really fun story. That was a helicopter pilot, the guy, an Army helicopter pilot, and his wife. They were very fit and just a gorgeous couple. So I was like, I got to photograph you, but let's think of something weird. So she's trying to drown him. She's got the net around his face, and she's dunking him. And they did that over and over and over. I was like, just 2 or 3 more times, and trying to capture it and get him in the right way. And so they were fantastic. And the police pulled us over on that one, and so they pulled over and said, what's what's going on here?
It's
And the
art. It's
guy,
art. I swear.
you know, he didn't miss a beat though. He just said, "Oh, we're taking some anniversary photos with my wife." And I don't know, classic moment, classic moment. And the other ones were just sort of me experimenting with art. The bottom middle one, the circle of the girl, that's called "I Choose to Float." And she was really struggling with. We had an entire session capturing her depression. I said, let's face it, let's capture it. Let's not wish it away. Let's not beat it away. Let's go make some art. And that's what we did. In 2018, I moved to Alabama, which that's crazy going from being an islander to Alabama. And my kid, as we drove up to Kentucky to visit my family, we drove through Nashville. And I'm saying, you're going to see a big city. So there's going to be these huge buildings. And he said, so it's the island of Nashville? Uh-oh. So my poor baby did not have any sense of what a large land mass really was. So it was a real adventure, journeying back after 15 years in the Marshall Islands to live in Alabama. So I had to decide at this point whether I was going to re-stand up my client business. I decided not to. I started getting calls based on my website. I had changed it to Alabama, and I had been thinking about what I was going to do, hadn't really advertised or anything, but I started getting calls, and I immediately started referring them out to the local photographers I knew. I don't know why. All I knew is I didn't want to take clients. I just kept feeling like I wasn't ready, wasn't in the right headspace. I didn't have my business plan figured out. And next thing you know, I decided to go back into the engineering role. So this is the point. And all during this time, Dwight Okamoto had been helping me on my journey, both with my photographic open and my art. And so he sponsored me January 2019 with my master photographer and craftsman degree. And at this point, I really shifted gears and said, okay, personal projects are going to rule now. I'm going back to work. Now I just get to make whatever I want.
Making art.
And how do you figure out what is it that you want? What do you want to create? If personal projects are going to be all you're doing, what is it? What is it that you're going to create? I'd already sort of started the journey of making, these personal storytelling pieces. But going back to work also really impacted my art. So bottom left is called Said to Me. And these are things that men said to me over the years. And this sort of started me down more my feminist journey because I started reflecting and thinking about, going back to work as a physicist. I tend to be, oftentimes I'll be the only woman in a room of 150 people. So it can be very intimidating, right? And still today, I can't tell you how many things have happened to me being the only woman in a room or the only woman in this industry. Oftentimes, I've had people slap me on the back just to check to see if I'm wearing a bra, and they say it out loud to the entire group of 25 men, and hands on my leg, or, people just assume because I'm friendly and extroverted that I am open to that or something. And so and then add on to that there is an intimidation level. I was making red decisions for our Department of Defense. So I decided I was the decision maker for what got fielded and what didn't. So when I made a green decision, people really like that. When I make a red decision, I had men block my way out of a conference room, or scream right into my face, nose to nose. You're even more stupid than I thought. And in those moments, and my answer is, message received, have a seat. But I got screamed at a lot. I had physical intimidation. It's very interesting being a woman in the scientific and engineering roles, right? So, and leadership roles. Some of my art changed. You look at the top right, that one's called Dunce. It's really about shame. It's about the moment where I was up briefing and talking about, all of my knowledge of physics, engineering, and working out on, I've worked on a radar for my entire career of 25 years. So I'm a pretty good, I've got expertise there. Yet still, when I'm up briefing, people are always trying to pin you to the carpet and tell you what you don't know, right? And so there's moments where I was stupid and I didn't know the answers, or I came off like a complete ditz. And you don't think you carry that around with you. You can have 99 amazing briefings, or a million technical moments where you are just a shining superstar. But you have one where somebody pins you to the carpet, or one where you just didn't deliver right. And those are the moments that I carry with me. And so people often will ask me, they'll say, but you're the happiest person. You're the happiest person I know. Why is your art so depressing? And that is why, because I don't live in those headspaces. I really don't. And I think one other reason, I mean, I'm blessed with extremely happy genes. I just am. I'm very lucky. But those feelings, of feeling stupid or ashamed, this was my take on it. And so this is, that comes out.
Oh, we're starting to lose you a little bit.
You were frozen
for
double check before so I use those feelings, keep them in my headspace. So for me, to sort of release story, right, and get it out. So another one, I already mentioned that I find marriage really hard. And, a portrait of us called It's about marriage.
What was the name of that again, Julie?
It's Just Forever.
It's Just Forever.
Were you able to hear that?
Yeah, I only heard It's Just Forever.
Yes.
Is that what the title of it is?
And, and it's about, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Looks like we're having a little bit of internet issues.
And so, hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I can hear you. Our video's frozen on there.
Okay.
But you're smiling, so you look good. That's all that matters, right?
Okay, good. So it's Just Forever as a marriage piece. And, I find marriage extremely difficult. And props to my husband for posing. So, it's wonderful because what we talked about for it and what I planned, was we had a skeleton. And then I photographed the skeleton in both of our chairs, and then photographed us sitting in those chairs, and then merged. So that in our, if you zoom in on me, I'm sort of looking at the lens. And the skin is falling off our bones as we sit and eat dinner and don't even look at each other. Yeah, thank you. And that's sort of and the title really tells that story. It's just forever. We'll be together till the skin falls off our bones, and forever. And so I use the lyrics from that music to help define and drive what the image was really going to be and what the story was going to tell. Bottom right.
Oh no! So it looks like we've lost Julie on here. So that's not as much fun. I'm gonna switch to a prettier camera right there. So we'll see if she joins us back in just a minute. Looks like she's trying to connect right up here. So we're gonna see if I can get her back. Hold please.
Can you see me?
Oh, I can see you now. Yes. So we've got your picture. I've got no screen from you.
Okay. Okay. Let's try again. Who knows what happened?
Gotta love technology.
All right. Can you see?
Everybody's hoping the clowns didn't get you.
Can you see okay?
I cannot see your
I
screen.
know. I still have that skeleton sitting at my.
Uh-oh, I've lost you, Julie. We've got no screen and no no audio from you. Any luck? Let's see if she comes back on. All right. Well,
Hey.
we've got your screen that's coming up here now, and so far we're not frozen.
Well, I'll talk a little bit because you guys had those images sitting up for a while before I start sharing again. How about that?
Yeah, that
Maybe
sounds great.
Yeah, so you saw the marriage piece, the bottom right piece with the girl, that was me in the corner. My friend's mom had died, and she said the nurses kept coming out and bothering her and wouldn't let her just grieve. And so she put her coat over her head and just hid. And so I sort of, that really impacted me, that story. And so what I did is I ended up trying to sort of recreate that and just see how it felt to sort of live it. And again, when you read a book, you get to walk in someone else's shoes. When you hear someone else's story, it's the same. You can put yourself into their shoes and think about their story and reflect. And that's exactly what I did. And it's amazing because when I put that, I put a snoot, for a spotlight on the wall, and it almost looked like angel wings. And that was total happenstance, but it worked. And I obviously shared the image with her, and it's just special. So it was meaningful. Sometimes it's just, again, it's not always, doesn't always have to be your own story. You can get inspired and live in someone else's shoes for a second, right? And be inspired by that. The bottom, the other one with my head against the pillow is called Ambien. I can't sleep. I can never sleep. I'm always tossing everything in my head all through the night. So, that was that was a dedication to the fact that I can't sleep. And people can relate to those things. I saw Chris immediately laugh and relate to that. But I'm going to try to share.
All right, let's give it a try.
And maybe this time I won't push play. So I know it looks a little small, but I'm wondering if maybe that will help our cause.
That shouldn't affect it.
Okay.
We're just streaming your entire screen that we're seeing there, so we should be able to look at it pretty big. Okay, we can see them now.
Okay, good. So I got my art degree in 2022, and top left was after Roe v. Wade. I tend to try to steer clear of political topics, but this one impacted me a lot. And I loved hearing the judges talk about this one because they're like, it's just the same person hanging on the wall over and over. And of course, that to me was the story. We did this to ourselves. We took away women's rights, and we had a female judge that did it. And, what's happening to women and the stories that you see in the news now are devastating. It's devastating when you have a 10-year-old, in Indiana that has to travel state lines, to get the care she needs after being molested. It's devastating. This is devastating to women. And so, again, I found myself absolutely in tears, devastated, talking to everyone I knew about how did we let this happen? And we did this to ourselves. That is the story. So yes, it's me over and over and over. We are the women, and we did this to ourselves. We had a female judge. I'm just, and that was my take on it. It's not meant to be a political topic. It's just something, again, it was my own personal inspiration. The top middle is one of my favorites because it's a little psychotic. So my husband came home from work one day and said, "You didn't even unload the dishwasher." It's that thing has been, full for 2 days and you didn't unload the dishwasher. Well, that day I had done like 6 loads of laundry and I had filled my kids' Easter basket meticulously, each little egg, and taped them shut. And, I'd gone out and gotten all the things, and I had been busy all day. And so this image is titled, No, I Didn't Unload the Dishwasher. That's the title. And what I had done is gotten all of our laundry and all of our clothing and took it down we have a 3-story house. And so I took it down all 3 stories, filled the room with clothing, just tossed it all in there, and put my camera on a tripod and took this image of me just completely put out holding the laundry basket. And I love that image so much. And so I ended up putting sort of the Madonna murder halo around my head as well. So to me, it just really tells the story, and especially with the title. And I think I was trying to think, so none of the top 3 merited. Those are non-merits. And they're some of my favorite images. So don't ever, ever think, I love those images. I love the stories they tell. They're my own personal pieces. And like I said, those flipping judges. And so, yeah, I don't really put stock in whether something's a great storytelling image and whether it merited, right? Because the merits are based on the 12 elements. And yeah, these images may not meet those 12 elements, right? But it doesn't mean they're bad images. So I would make sure that you have that takeaway as well. And so it's really important, and especially because I can't tell you how many years I spent soul crushed by print competition. When something I poured my personal, storytelling into, and when that doesn't merit and it's that personal, feels personal. And so, yeah, I spent a lot of years very soul crushed by it. But after a lot of years in the game, I don't get as soul crushed anymore, because I have found that I appreciate and love my own images, or I wouldn't make them or put them out there. But and then that's okay that it doesn't merit. So. Some of these are just, pieces. The bottom left is called gaslighting. And this is one that I asked Tom to help me make. And so we created this image, and it's the image inside the TV is very different from the image. And it's actually telescopic. If you keep looking in the TV all the way through, there's different images all the way back through the image. But it's gaslighting because there's different things happening in each image. And basically making someone believe that something different is happening. And so I was doing something different behind Tom Rouse in every image. And they're, like I said, they're telescopically put in there. One of my favorites is towards the bottom right. It's called middle management. And so I told you I went back to work as an engineer, and how many struggles I have had, in that scientific role. And so I would just come home just depleted. And so I'll talk a little bit more about my inspiration for that. But most certainly, I'm a mother, and a very active and engaged mother. So I'm like doing the science fairs and, going to all the baseball games and all the things, and working full time, and also making art. So I'm busy. And so that's one of those images where I was just completely depleted. So Mamarazzi, these are just some things I've made of my kids over the year. He is definitely my muse, especially now that I started just sort of leaning towards personal projects. So not all of my things are depressing, because with my kid, I tend to find the joy and ridiculousness. And so, he dressed for Harry Potter one year for Halloween. He was on the speed skating team. He did that. I joined roller derby, which is a little crazy. My skate name was Savage Juju. I was 44 years old at the time, and jumping over those giant orange cones, and ramming people to the ground. So I eventually busted my tailbone and stopped doing that. But while I was skating, my kid would come and skate too. And he found inline speed skating and joined the team. So I did the team photos, and So that's my baby right there. And then he convinced me to get a kitten. I've been in the dog camp my entire life. And I was like, mean mom, like, you're not getting a kitten. And he kept asking. And then we had a mouse run across our basement floor. And I was like, I had an idea. Maybe we should get a cat. So we ended up getting this beautiful cat named Isla. She's a giant Maine Coon. And I never seen anything like this cat and my kid. They love each other so much. So we got her during the pandemic. So she's a little pandemic baby. And when my kid finally did go back to school, because he was virtual for the entire year of the first year of the pandemic. And when he finally did go back to school, Isla, when he went out for the bus, would just go sit at the window. And I swear to you now, she says his name. She goes, "Why? Why?" And it's the saddest thing. But anyway, so my dog is in the top right. His name is Cayenne. He's a Labradoodle. But so I still do mamarazzi images, whatever my kid is into. So I told you we were in a band. So my kid is now, he loves to play the electric guitar, and he wins all these competitions. He loves to compose music. He's a little smart little whippersnapper. He's on the math team. So one of the things that I've done is started to go get some of those Ben Shirk templates. Mm-hmm. If you guys haven't done that, I gotta say, they're a blast. So I use, every year I create something for Valentine's Day. In the last 2 years, I ended up creating something with Ben Shirk templates for baseball and basketball. Because I can't get more creative or smarter or better with sports themes than Ben Shirk. So I just go grab his templates now, and they're so fun. So when my kid made the math team, I went and grabbed the math team, or the math template that he did as well. And it's brilliant. So, but he's got his giant cat, Isla. She's a Maine Coon. She's 20 pounds, so she's a beast. I named that one BFC. And my kid said, what does that mean? I said, well, it's up for interpretation. So you get to decide what the letters mean. So he said, big friendly cat. And I said, yes. I'm still mamarazzi. But, so now I wanted to sort of switch gears. I mean, that's been my journey, becoming an artist. And so there's a great book by Questlove. So it's called Creative Quest. And one quote that I read in there was, it says, do creative people just make things without thinking about them? Do they worry about not getting it right, or being told that they're not getting it right? Or do they just walk into the room, take the paint and canvas and go to work? I'm asking because I've never been able to set aside that self-consciousness. And that was the first question we asked in here was, do you struggle declaring yourself an artist? Do you struggle? Do you feel like an imposter? I forever will. But I have taken Tom Rouse's advice. You want to be an artist? Declare it. And one time we were sitting in a restaurant together, and it was before one of our workshops, and we sat down at the booth, and it was we had just gotten off planes and met each other there, and we're sitting at the booth, and the waitress comes over and she says, "What are y'all in town for?" And I looked at her and I said, "We're artists." And Tom has been laughing about that ever since. And he tells that story because it was the first time he'd heard me with confidence say, like, I'm an artist, And, it's important. And so I encourage everybody to say it out loud and to tell people when they ask what you do. I'm sure everybody says, I'm a photographer. But every now and then, throw the word artist in. And say it out loud and say it with confidence and feel it. And I think it matters actually saying it out loud.
Terry's got the right idea. Just put I'm an artist in chat.
Yep. There you go. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Because if nothing else, I'm going to walk out of here tonight feeling like somebody declared themselves an artist. So thank you. And it is very important to do it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my influences here. So and one of the things that as I walk through some of my influences, I'm going to walk through 3 of my influences. And at the end of that, I would love to kind of go, then switch over to the chat mode and hear from you guys about who some of your all's influences are. And if you struggle to find those influences. because then I'm going to talk a little bit more about, some of the very proactive ways I go seek out influence. But some of my influences, one of my main ones, gosh, I love him so much, Gregory Crewdson. And I talked a lot about how, I started to sort of slant towards feminist themes and topics and personal stories. And I love this one called The Woman Stain. With her, he doesn't do much in the way of Photoshop. He has these extravagant sets and lighting. You should see his behind the scenes stuff. It's insane. It feels like total overkill. When I look at his sets and his lighting structures, I'm like, golly, I just feel like I could have done that with one light. But I mean, he's he's very extravagant. So he doesn't do much in the way of Photoshop. So I'm opposite that way. I feel like I'm a horrible photographer. I don't meter. I have a lot of confessions here about my photography skills.
That's okay. I'm an artist.
That's right. I'm an artist. So, I'm one of those people that say things like, that's okay, I'll fix it in Photoshop, which is horrible, and especially if you're a photographer, and especially, gosh, if you ever do like volume photography, forget it. But, what I do, I tend to be really relaxed about it these days. I just go down there and move the lights around until it seems like maybe that'll work, and then shoot it. So, and then fix it in Photoshop. But this to me, it looks like he's maybe added that spot on the floor, and it's one of the few images that I know of his where it looks like maybe something was added, and maybe it wasn't, but. This image, boy, does it speak to me. The man's feet on the bed. There's always a little bit of a man in all of his images. And a lot of it has to do with depression or shame. She can't look herself in the mirror. And obviously the stain on the floor. What a title, The Woman Stain. This image just floors me in so many ways. And you think back to the image of me as the dunce, naked in the corner, shame and being naked. Those are like nightmares for people, right? being naked in public, right? There's an immediate relationship to shame there. And you look at the left, that one's called Woman at Sink. The titles. The sink is full of water. It's full to the brim. Everything in that kitchen is completely spotless. It couldn't be shinier. And just that standing there, her clothing, a look on her face, the beautiful scene outside that she is not enjoying. There's a lot in that image. And then of course you got to look at the bottom left one, the mom with the baby. She's not snuggling that baby. And there's so many women that can relate to that feeling, even though you love that baby, that feeling of, girl, I either need a break, or feeling some moments where you've lost yourself and you don't understand how to even get back to who you were. Who are you now? And so that separation, the baby and her sort of looking at the baby, it's just an interesting image. And I think that as, humans, we can look at any of these and sort of glean and feel the emotions that come with some of them. So some of the things that I created, you can see small influences here. The man's feet on the bed, the ambiguity, certainly the melancholy. And, there's a lot of questioning in this image. Did this image in the window, is that clairvoyance? Is that something they're thinking about doing? Is this man on the bed at risk? I don't know. I don't even know those answers. But I knew I needed that influence of the man's feet on the bed. And then maybe this happened in the past. Maybe they've already done it. Who knows? So these are sisters. And actually, a fun fact is this is Angela Kirkian's stepdaughters. I took this image in Atlanta of them. And they're a lot of fun, clearly. And then, another one, this is called the Lincoln Room. And it's a creepy image. It was a creepy room. And so I knew I needed to create in this room. And so the vanity called to me because of the woman stain. So, obviously you don't want to directly copy, there's got to be some of you. And so, I'm not looking at myself in the mirror. It's because I'm brushing my hair over my face, which is sort of creepy. And then there's that ambiguity of what's going on. And I always have secret elements in my images. There is almost no image ever that I create that doesn't have something that I know about that you don't know about. I have messages on the walls, and I'll talk about that more. And I have a face in the pillow in the background on the bed. There's just always little small things that you might not notice unless you know to go look for it. But you can see where those influences are. And then I love this painter, Johann Barrios. I follow him on Instagram, and this man creates very similar images over and over and over and over again. And I think to myself, how long can I be entertained by this same theme over and over again? Yet I am. Every single image is, he finds these ways to just, and so I think what image I'm going to point to. So I talked about trying to get a different take from your influences. Well, I did pretty much a direct copy of Johann Barrios. I felt every image that I ever see. I follow him on Instagram, and every time his image pops up, I zoom in and study, and I go, golly, wish I'd thought of that. And so these were my images. Both of them were called Middle Management. And because that's certainly where the melancholy and the exasperation and the exhaustion and the complete beatdown. I talked about people blocking my way out of conference rooms. This was not daily, it was hourly, because I was in these, red-green fielding decision meetings. And they wanted to pin me to the carpet and take me down hard. And they quite often, would find ways to scream in my face or, in general, just intimidate. And so I would just come home. I wouldn't have had anything to drink or eat all day, just beat down in every way possible. So Johann Barrios, you look back at that. You guys got to follow this guy. I find it entertaining. Every single last one, even if they're the same and like be a different person. I'm like, that's amazing. I don't know how he keeps coming up with different poses for these people, but boy, did I feel it. And boy, was I influenced. And then Tom Rouse. So this image of his called A Country Girl's Dream, where she's just helpless and she's floating away with zero way to stop it. Whatever direction these birds are taking her, she certainly has zero control. And so I love that idea. And, this goes back to letting an artist that I greatly admired know what his work meant to me. It mattered. So when I first met Tom, I obviously went and looked him up after we chatted and looked up his work. And I immediately came back and said, well, I got to know more about this image, and it mattered. The beginnings of these discussions, right? Talking about somebody's art piece and the work they're creating and finding out what their inspirations are. It matters a lot. So I think, that certainly led to this image. These are all fairy terns on Kwajalein. They're like the only birds we had out there. We didn't have normal birds. When I moved back here, I put up bird feeders all over my yard. I'm fascinated by the wealth of birds we have in Alabama. And I'm not a bird person. I've never been a bird person ever. But after living on Kwajalein and having really only fairy terns out there, I've been fascinated. But, that led to this image, and you can sort of see the ribbons / chains, that, and in this image, they're trying to save me. I'm a non-believer. And so I felt like there's always someone trying to change my mind and save me. And so the fairy terns were representative of that. And it feels like I'm a little bit helpless there. So I'll stop there actually, and let's go to the chat and talk about some of the influences maybe that people mentioned.
Yeah, so let's put into chat. Who are some of your artists that you've has influenced what your work, your style is? We've got just a couple more minutes. on here, but would love to know. Looks like Michael's already started us off. John Hartman and Harold Ross. Eileen takes Joyce Wilson. Who do you pull inspiration from? I know there's so many amazing artists out there. It's just like, ooh, and digital technologies at our fingertips. That I'm addicted to books. I love getting art books, coffee table books, things that just intrigue me. And it's like, ooh, what can I study and what can I learn and how do you pull stuff together? I think it's very fun. Terry Joyce Tennyson coming on. So don't be afraid to put into chat who's there. While we're doing that, I'm going to give away a few prizes and stuff, and we'll come back and talk about this inspiration. So up first, we've got a $50 lab credit to American Color Imaging, and let's see who that winner is. Got the wheels spinning. And it's going to be a tall snail. Congratulations on that one. Up next, we've got a $75 lab credit. Let me get the wheel back up, and we'll see who's winning that one.
These prizes are amazing.
I know, it's always nice to get cool stuff.
Heck yeah.
And hey, it's Michael Picciarelli. Congratulations, Michael. And now let's go for our next one. We have a $100 lab credit to American Color Imaging, and let's see who's winning that one. Congratulations. Yay. And do have a special for American Color Imaging. You can get 25% off of fine art prints, and that's good through the 1st of March with the code that's up on the screen. I'll also be emailing this out to you too, just in case you don't have a pen handy, but hopefully you are and are taking notes on there. So that special, make sure you take a screenshot of it or check your email coming up. And do want to let you know about our next episode, Old Hollywood Lighting. So Phil's going to come in and show us some of that romance of old Hollywood lighting. Do want to have a little plug too. If you do have ideas for other episodes, people you think would be fantastic guests, that sort of thing, I'm going to be monitoring this inspiration list as well. But shoot me an email, hello@cwooley.com, so we can start reaching out to them. But let's come back and check out some of the inspiration that we have here. And
yes,
we got quite a few people have been responding while we were doing that. Holy cow. So
yes.
We have Ray that loves Tom Rouse, Heidi, Yeti, PG, Rosalind. Oh, I'm on that list too. Love you, Heidi. Okay. We got Mackenzie that enjoys the idea of creating images from poetry or stories. That's kind of fun. Everyone creates a different image, and I think that's a good start when you feel creatively blocked. Tom wants to know if you can post the quote from Creative Quest again. Can we go back to that quote on there, and I'll share your screen when we're doing that. Let's see. We got Rita, who likes Kelly Robitaille. I think that's how you pronounce that name. Tim, in today's world, Tom Rouse. But a lot of the old life photographers had a big influence. Had the opportunity to meet Gordon Parks in the late 90s after seeing his work. So that's some cool stuff that's up there. I'm going to get that quote put back up there so we can see that one. That one quote's for you. So I think we got a pretty good mix of inspiration there. What do you think, Julie?
It sounds amazing. And actually, I was going to see if there's a way to capture what people put in there. I would love to see the list later and like reflect on it and review it.
I can email that one to you. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I know Julie's at a little bit of a disadvantage with how we do these ones, that she can't read the chat, so I have to read everything that's that's coming through on there. But it's a little bit more fun that way, right? We get some dialogue, some banter going on.
It's a mystery.
Yep. So as we kind of wrap up, Julie, do you have any kind of parting advice for us? How do we put more of us into our artwork?
Yeah, I do. And, going back to that Questlove quote, regarding dark art, because a lot of people ask why I make such dark art when I'm such a happy human. And so I took a lot of comfort from reading Questlove's book, where he said, those could be feelings of aggression, depression, Those are two common ones. They're not feelings that I want to dominate my ordinary life, which is why they work so well as an engine for making things. So that goes back to, I don't live in that headspace, but it does come out in my art. And you think of something like Eminem's song called Stan. It says, you weren't supposed to banish the idea. You're supposed to embrace it. Many artists would have turned away from that idea and avoided writing an objectionable and disturbing song. But if you would have allowed themselves a chance of writing a great song, Alanis Morissette is one of my favorites. And she says the music and lyrics are all written relatively quickly. And that's been the case for 25 years straight. So music lyrics are written usually within 15 minutes. It takes 45 years to live the song, 15 minutes to have it come out, right? So to use your own life experience and to get uncomfortable. Cage the Elephant on personal lyrics, he says, if you're uncomfortable singing your very personal feelings and lyrics on stage, you've probably made a hit. And so, I think the more you talk about things, the easier it becomes. And it's refreshing to see some of the people that come out to the shows tell us how the record has helped them through some tough times. It's been refreshing and therapeutic. And I found the same thing. When I told you I was a little bit shy about sharing art, but when I did share art, I found that other people related and told me that it gave them, comfort and inspiration that maybe they could share their stories too. I was surprised by that. One other thing that I do is I told you I put personal messages into my images. So it's called palimpsest, and it's the description, of that is a page either from a scroll or a book from which the text has been scraped or washed off so that the page can be reused for another document. And so that's sort of the idea. Obviously, with Photoshop, you just use some blend modes and you can find ways to hide it and still, keep it in there. Sometimes it's more apparent, sometimes it isn't. But oftentimes I do inject those personal feelings and little messages and things that are meaningful to me. Easter eggs, that's right. But, to challenge your own creativity, life, tell your own personal stories. Everybody's got shit going on that's deep in there. And those, especially when I'm on a judging panel, I love those storytelling images where you can tell somebody just spilled their guts in the image. It's meaningful, and it certainly adds impact. Look at art. You've got to go out there and look at art. Follow them on Instagram, whatever makes it easy for you, right? Go to museums, get books. A lot of artists have books, and you go to imaging and they have the book signings. Go pick up the books and flip through them. They're going to put their best and most amazing things in there. Everybody has a website. So, when we get this list of artists that have inspired this amazing group of people, I'm immediately going to go take that list and go look them up and look through the websites and spend time. Take the time to carve it out and go look and get inspired, and then go earmark, bookmark, screenshot, and save in a folder. Whatever you need to do, right, to have like a little inspiration folder where you can go look at it and think about what it means to you and what you might create from it. Song lyrics, we talked about It's Just Forever, came from the Cage the Elephant song. Collaborate. So some of the best stuff I've done has been with other artists where we bounce ideas from each other. And next thing you know, something that started off simple got really weird fast. And that's fun. So if you can find somebody that you can work with without driving each other crazy, because your processes are going to be different, it's wonderful to collaborate, and I love it. And then to cover. So you remember Johan Barrios, I did basically his image. I tried to repeat it and create it myself. Brush your teeth with your left hand. You've got to carve new neural networks in your brain. So something that you do repetitively every day, do it differently. Try it. So something as simple as brushing your teeth every day. We all do it with our right hands. If you're right-handed, switch it up. Start carving different networks in your brain. It matters. Search for artists that inspire you. We've done that. And then there's a book I'd love to recommend for divergent thinking. It's called Think Again by Adam Grant. I really love that. I use it for my engineering as well to help with my strategic vision. So I talked about process overlap, and I'm almost done. So
all right, we are just about we are at time right now. So Want to be there so that we can be as respectful on that. So yeah, if we can get this last thought out, then we'll be totally good.
I would say allow for failure. David Bowie said something I really liked. I don't know if he said it often, but it's the kind of thing that you should get tattooed on your leg. He said that creativity is one of the few human endeavors where you can crash your airplane and walk away from it. Your mistakes don't have to bring you down, not by any means. So allow for failure. You'll never, then I go through like some different techniques, but that's really it. So I will stop sharing, wrap it up there. Yeah, we got through it.
Thank you so very much, Julie. This was very, very inspiring, and it's a fun, fresh look at how we can reinterpret our art. So thank you for sharing your passion with us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun. I hope everybody else got something out of this.
I think we all did, and looking at the comments, it looks like everybody most certainly did. So thanks
Oh,
again,
thank
and
you.
have a great night, everybody.